And look what they're doing. They escalated again. And you went hands-on again with me. You both escalated this.
You're not going back to court.
Don't touch me.
Step back.
Don't touch me. No, you're not going to tell me what to do. You are such a coward. Each of you are such cowards. I'm surprised you can put even a few words together in a sentence. What a coward. Look at this coward. This is the guy who went hands-on illegally. Hey, Cork Ryan, step back.
This comes from Cold Spring, New York, which is about an hour and a half north of New York City. The story centers around this guy right here. His name is Kenneth Baker, badge number 20 from the Cold Spring, New York Police Department. He was formerly badge number 5651 from the NYPD, and he has a really checkered past. So what I wanted to focus on was we hire these city leaders, these mayors, these people who are supposed to look out for the community, and then they turn around and through negligence or willful neglect, and they put this guy, a guy like this, in the position of not a janitor, not a member of the road crew filling potholes, not a member of the sanitation department. Not that there's anything wrong with those positions right there, but typically when you deal with those kind of professions, you're not dealing with the public. No, they put Kenneth Baker in as a law enforcement officer, somebody who's going to interact with the public and somebody who's going to have a uniform, perceived authority, and a gun. And they don't see any problem with this. They had to have conducted a background check. If they didn't, that's negligence. If they conducted it and looked at his record, we're going to look at some of this right here. This is it right here. This is Kenneth Baker, badge number 5651, formerly of the New York Police Department. And his service started in April of 1997 and terminated in January of 2019. Now, James Freeman pointed out that his leaving the New York City Police Department in 2019 coincided with the NYPD bringing on body cams and dash cams, which is interesting. And then he goes to Cold Spring, where they have no body cams and dash cams. That's interesting. But you have this mayor, and we're going to look at her in a second, Mayor Foley, right here in the center. She is confronted by Leroy Truth from Leroy Truth Investigations YouTube channel and is given the information that can be found right here, just an accrual of problems that this guy had with the NYPD. Anybody could look at this. It's public information. It's online. It's pretty lengthy. And while a lot of these allegations were unsubstantiated, there are a lot of allegations for that one guy. How many allegations do you have against you? How many allegations are in the average law enforcement agent in the average police department in the United States? Probably not this many right here. So it had to be one or two of those people was telling the truth about something, and then the city probably deemed it so because they settled to the tune of over $300,000, over $250,000 for this one guy. That's a serious problem. So when you have Mayor Foley, who's supposed to be looking out for the city, and her board of trustees signing people on to become basically members of the community who are there to keep people safe, who are there to protect property, who are there to protect people, and yet this guy has a history that throws red flags all over the place. Why is that? Is this just negligence? Or is this willful intent? And then you got this guy right here. His name is Larry Burke. Larry Burke is the guy who suggested that the Board of Trustees hire Kenneth Baker. This is from the Highlands Current, and it says, quote, trustees approved a recommendation by Larry Burke, that's this guy right here, officer in charge of the Cold Spring Police Department, to hire Ken Baker, that's Ken Settlement Maker Baker, as a patrol officer. Baker, a 22-year veteran for the New York City Police Department. That right there should send off a red flag. Because if you'll remember, back in the 1970s, they conducted New York City conducted the Knapp Commission. And the Knapp Commission found that from top to bottom, the New York City Police Department, the NYPD, was corrupt from top to bottom. And then 20 years later, in 1994, was the Mullen Commission. And you know what the Mullen Commission found? The Mullen Commission found that the corruption that the Knapp Commission found, it's way, way worse 20 years later. So this guy is a veteran of a police department that is known for being filled with corruption. from top to bottom. Recently retired as a detective, the board also approved the purchase of a police vehicle that should arrive in February. So they hired this Baker guy with this kind of record right here. This is the guy who suggested that this board of trustees right here hire him. And now here's the interaction between the board of trustees, which includes Mayor Foley, when Leroy Truth Investigates brings this to their attention. Watch how they react. Watch how defensive they get.
Any other members of the public who would like to speak?
Yep, I would.
Name and address for the record, please.
I'm not going to give that. You call me.
Name and address
You
for the
can
record.
call me
sir.
Mr. Freeman.
You can call me Mayor Foley.
I'm not going to call you anything, but
Your name and address for the record.
I am
sir.
not going to surrender my Fourth Amendment right to be able to speak in a public session. To be able to speak in a public session.
Sir, you've been asked. The ground rule here is your name and address for the record.
Do the ground rules get suspended? Like, do the Fourth Amendment get suspended when I come in here? I don't.
Say your piece.
All right, I'm going to tell you what is important to share for this town. Ladies and gentlemen of the village of Cold
You have 3
Spring,
minutes. Start the timer, please.
I stand before you today.
I'm sorry. You can hold on
Excuse
for
me,
a
how
minute.
rude you are.
Excuse me, sir. No.
How
I
rude
neglected.
you
I neglected.
Now you're giving a
You have
time
3
limit.
minutes. That's right, and it's on the agenda. There's a 3-minute limit.
Ladies and gentlemen of the village of Cold Spring, and all the board members here, you know who I am. Mayor Foley, you know who I am as well. I stand before you today with a heavy heart, echoing the cries of the village of this Cold Spring community. Our beautiful, serene village,
Sir, you
known for
have
its
a
warmth and hospitality, has had a dark shadow cast upon it for the last 4 years by a violent, brutal, and aggressive predator, Officer Kenneth Baker. Don't interrupt me again. From local business owners to tourists, from our elderly to our youth, many live in fear due to the actions of this very individual. His reign of terror must end, and it must end now. Officer Kenneth Baker must be fired immediately.
I want to show you the smirk on this guy's face right here. This guy ends up helping to remove Leroy Truth Investigations from this public meeting. And what I find interesting is, what if, let's say you don't know anything about this. What if this guy standing in this room presenting this case is right? What if Kenneth Baker has a long storied history with the New York Police Department that resulted in over $300,000 in settlement fines, which gets laid at the feet of the taxpayers? It's not coming out of Kenneth Baker's pocket. I guarantee you that. What if just half of what Leroy Truth Investigations was saying to Mayor Foley is true? Why would there be any smirking? There should be looks of concern. There should be actions of, hey, wait a second, this is the first we've heard of this. If this is true, we don't want to put any member of this, 2,000 population Cold Springs, beautiful town that we have, this little village that we have. We don't want to put one single person in jeopardy. If what you're saying is right, give us the information. We'll investigate. We'll get with this Larry Burt guy and we'll see if what Leroy Truth Investigations is saying is true. And we're going to get rid of the guy because we don't want to put our constituency in danger. But that's not their perspective. That's not how they went about this. This Mayor Foley just got absolutely offended, wouldn't stop interrupting. And then it ended with Leroy Truth Investigations getting kicked out of this public meeting.
And it must end now. Officer Kenneth Baker must be fired immediately.
This guy stands in front of Leroy Truth's camera, kind of blocking it, which is a violation of the First Amendment. He did it on purpose. I don't know if Foley told him to do it, but it doesn't matter. This guy got up of his own volition to stand in front of a camera in violation of Leroy's First Amendment right to freedom of press.
And you see how they're in collusion here. And you're going to have a lot of people seeing this. The mayor had this man here go in front of my camera to block my camera.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
It's on camera.
This gentleman was not asked to move.
Officer Kenneth Baker must be fired immediately. How did we get here? In 2019, you had a choice. You knew of Officer Baker's tainted history, a track record filled with extreme police brutality while he was an NYPD police officer. Yet based on mere recommendation by Officer Larry Burke, he was not only hired, but also given the power to patrol our peaceful streets.
And that is huge. This guy who has this record right here that we can verify, that anybody can get on the internet and find, this guy right here, who has a record, is now with the public that you, Mayor Foley, say you care about. You, Board of Trustees, say you're here to protect. If it's true, if you took your job just a little seriously, you would be greatly concerned at these allegations that Leroy Truth is bringing up. But that's not the attitude that they have. The attitude they have is the folding of the arms, the wringing of the hands, the defensive posture. Give me a break. I mean, what would it hurt for Mayor Foley just to go, hey, can you get the documentation that you're talking about? And we will investigate. At least pretend like you care about the people of Cold Spring.
Mayor, you're not a resident, sir.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Stop interrupting me. Mayor and the village board of trustees, you allow this wolf amongst our flock and continue to do so. And for that, you bear the responsibility. And sadly, my story with my interaction.
And that's a stark metaphor. You let this wolf among the flock. You say you care about the flock, but then you're letting this wolf in. He's obviously some form of wolf, or there wouldn't be this many settlement charges against him.
With Kenneth Baker, who's aggressive and brutal, are not unique. And I took it upon myself to research more about Officer Baker and found a troubling history of brutality and substantial legal
Look at them smirking while he's saying the words, this guy has a troubling history of brutality, and you guys decided to give him a uniform, a badge, and a gun and go out to the public to protect and serve them.
In his past that you knew about. More recently, an 88-year-old couple, lovely couple, that comes here to the beautiful village. They came here every week to go to one or two restaurants. And Kenneth Baker terrorized them so much that the 88-year-old gentleman has PTSD, and they vowed to never come here again. And what was their crime? Their crime was the gentleman parked next to the restaurant, so his handy...
Those public servants, those trustees, the mayor, should be looking at Leroy Truth like this lady right here is looking at him, like contemplatively, thinking about what he's saying, taking it seriously if there's something to take serious, gathering information so that they can further investigate if what he's saying is true or not.
Cap wife can get out with her walker. Kenneth Baker didn't like that, and he yelled at them. He was incredibly aggressive, and so much so that they will never come here again. And when I came to the community day this past Saturday, scores of people told me stories.
What underpins the mentality that doesn't take what this guy's saying seriously? And if it's true that there are all these settlement cases against Kenneth Settlement Maker Baker, how can you justify keeping somebody like that on the police force when he is a serious liability or looks like a potential to be a very serious liability? What is the justification that they use to actually keep somebody like this on? It's going to increase the people of Cold Springs taxes to continue to pay for the insurance that's supposed to cover his qualified immunity. So you've got this guy who's obviously a problem, obviously was a problem with the NYPD, and now you're going to bring that problem here and then pretend like it doesn't exist when somebody brings it to your public meeting?
A police brutality and aggressiveness that Kenneth Baker did. So I'm calling on each of you to do the right thing and fire Kenneth Baker and Larry Burke, who removed me illegally and unlawfully on Kenneth Baker's behest from this court when the court was in session. Do the right thing. Fire him. And your arrogance and how you are not caring about what I'm saying is disgusting.
Yep, it truly is.
This
comments are offensive and attacking.
I've been rude since I started here.
And your time is up.
And do the right thing and fire Kenneth Baker.
Let the record reflect that this gentleman is not a resident of the village of Cold Spring. He is not a constituent of this board.
And that right there is absolutely irrelevant. It doesn't matter if the person standing in front of you has ever visited Cold Spring before this day or not. It doesn't matter if this guy comes from Australia or China or Japan. He is bringing a very serious allegation on one of the guys that you hired to protect the people of Cold Spring. It's irrelevant where this guy comes from or if Leroy's residency is in Cold Spring. The question is Is there some roving madman on the street that we, the Board of Trustees, gave a uniform and a gun to, and now this guy is pretending to care about the residents that we supposedly care about and could end up hurting them one day, which it looks like they have. Because Larry went through the streets and was asking people what their experience with the Cold Spring Police Department was, and it wasn't good. The testimony about their interaction with Kenneth Baker isn't good. And you might ask, then why aren't all these people piled into this public hearing so that they can lodge a complaint too? Apparently, they're afraid of blowback. They're afraid of retaliation and repercussions that might come from saying, hey, we need to get rid of Kenneth Baker. But that's kind of strange because they had already gotten rid of another guy. The community evidently got together with a guy who, a member of the police department, who shot some innocent dude, and they demanded that he be removed, and he got removed. So I don't know why the people of Cold Spring aren't coming together against Kenneth Baker, especially when they have documentation on this guy. I don't know. Leave your thoughts about this. I think that if you want justice, then you have to go outside of what they call the justice system, because it truly is an injustice system. And I don't care if you're talking about federal, state, or local. This is what you've got. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. I agree with that, but it's probably more like power attracts the corruptible. And then those corruptible people end up, of course, doing corrupt things because they have no integrity. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell notification icon. Give it a thumbs up. Share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel further, the links are in the description. You grab a shirt, become a channel member. But the takeaway of this is whether you're in Cold Spring, or whether you're in Memphis, Tennessee, or in Lake Hughes, California, or somewhere in Maine, it doesn't matter. Wherever you are, whether you're in America or whether you're in some other country, the price of freedom is now and will always be eternal vigilance. And indifference to this notion is the means by which the people have and will secure their own oppression. I say it's time we stop securing our own oppression, and it's time we start today. I will see you guys in the next video.